A long time ago, in a village called Lugbe, there lived a lovely and benevolent lady named Ayomide. Ayomide was a beauty to behold. Her beauty and grace caught the eyes of many men who came to request her hand in marriage, but she bluntly refused all their advances. She didn't refuse them because she thought herself above them all, but because she simply never wanted to make the mistake of ending up marrying the wrong man. She was scared of being mistreated by any man she could call her husband, so she rejected many men who didn't seem worthy to her. Ayomide was almost 29 years old without a husband or child. Her mother started to become impatient with her and began to persuade her to accept any of the suitors and get married. But Ayomide ignored her mother's advice, saying that she had not found the man she wanted to spend the rest of her life with, even though all her mates and friends were already married with kids. The villagers made fun of Ayomide. Her friends never wanted to be associated with her because it is believed that a woman her age without a husband is like a farm without a farmer. Each time she passed by the village square, villagers called her different names and even accused her of being an Ogbanje spirit. But she never listened or cared, and she never failed to carry herself with her dignity, head and shoulders held high. One sunny afternoon, as Ayomide was on her way to the market, taking a route filled with bushes on both sides along a bushy path, she was busy thinking about her life, since her mother had told her that a woman's flowers were quick to wither. Those were words that resonated with her, and as she remembered she's growing older with every passing year, at 29 years old, she was so engrossed with her thoughts that she didn't notice the movements in the bushes around her. She wondered if she could even get married in time, before she became too old for men her age, as she recalled she never wanted to get married to someone who was older than her. And suddenly, she heard some noises around her, and before she could know what was happening, she was bundled and blindfolded, and gagged and carried with her hands tied behind her back. Ayomide had heard stories of slave traders and kidnappers, but she had never believed them because the stories had been told since she was very young. And to her, the story didn't hold any credibility, since it wasn't told by someone who had witnessed this unfortunate event. She was perplexed, and she could feel her heartbeat palpitate like someone who was being led to the slaughterhouse. This was an unfamiliar terrain to her. Karma had come to bite back at her, and what she never believed could happen was now happening to her. She didn't know what to do, but going back to the stories she had heard about as a kid, she knew she couldn't escape this. It would have to be by the grace of the Almighty. Before she could think of anything, she started mumbling prayers in her mouth. The slavers were chattering and laughing at their new acquirement, as it happened that it wasn't only Ayomide that was kidnapped. Many other ladies were kidnapped too, from different villages. Babatunde, one of the slavers, was wondering why these people were chattering like they. Don't they remember what would become of them if they got caught by the local law enforcement? He started wondering what he was doing with his life after the most notorious slave trader was caught, maimed, and used as food to feed the hungry lions. That was who he had looked up to become one day, as he thought to himself, if such a man cannot escape that kind of death, what about a common slave trader like him? What could happen to him if he got caught? He now knows he needs to find a way to escape this work he is engaged in. But the problem is, he cannot just tell them he is no longer interested in being a slave trader. He will be killed by his subordinates. And how can a leader leave his followers and leave them without a leader? All these questions were running across his mind. So he said to his mind that once the time he agreed to serve them elapsed, he would announce his retirement from this slave trade. All this changed when he met Ayomide. The first time he saw her, he couldn't believe his eyes. Was it one of his dreams? He had always seen this woman in his dream for the past few months. He had only been able to talk to her in his dream once. And that was when he tried to ask her who she was, what her name was, and what she wanted from him, to be disturbing his night of sleep. And all she ever did was smiled and laugh at him. He had always woken up wondering who this woman was and what she had wanted with him. But he was not prepared for the shock he experienced. The day he saw Ayomide bundled in blindfolded, he knew his life would never remain the same again. Immediately, he requested that Ayomide be placed in the prison closest to his chambers. His subordinates, thinking, what does our boss want with this lady? He had never made such a weird request before. As a matter of fact, he had never touched a woman's slave before. But they were happy with his request, thinking at least this would cheer him up since he has been gloomy lately. His subordinates heeded his instructions and did as he said. And Babatunde started visiting Ayomide at least once a day for the first 10 days. Ayomide was very cold to him. She didn't even say a word to him, no matter how long he tried talking to her for. It was like talking to a statue. But Babatunde did not give up. He knew he had to get answers to why she was disturbing him in his dream every night for the past 1 month. One day, while talking to her, he mentioned that he had always seen her in his dreams for a very long time, and she had never replied to him every time he tried to ask her a question. He also said that she was also like that in real life. And Ayomide, thinking what harm could happen to her if she replied to the man. He doesn't look and behave like the other guards who had attended to her. So she replies to him saying, "What do you mean you see me in your dream?" Babatunde seemed surprised she spoke back, and he said,
"And she speaks. You are so full of surprises."
He chuckled.
"And finally, my patience had paid off."
She wasn't done. She asked him what he meant, and she spoke. That was the turning point of their conversation. The duo started opening up to each other, since she thought, I might as well get sold and may never see him again. What harm could happen to me? Whenever Babatunde comes around, they both could talk for hours on stretch, uninterrupted, with each bearing out their minds to one another. Ayomide started opening up to Babatunde about how our village people ridiculed her for not being able to marry and rejecting proposals, and they went ahead to almost name her a witch, which actually pained her, but she tried as much as possible to make it seem like it didn't. Even her mother wouldn't let her tell her that she was getting old. She further said she believed that her love was very important whenever she wants to marry, and she cannot marry who she doesn't love, and the person that she will get married to must be someone who loves her. One day, during one of their talks, Ayomide asked Babatunde why he was doing this work. Babatunde sighed and replied, "I was never like this when I was a little younger. I was someone who did not like when people got cheated on, or when someone tried to bully another person. But all that changed one day when he was on his father's farm, farming yam for the next rain season. He started working from the early hours of the morning, after he had prepared food for his parents and left home, so he could have an early start and be able to finish his assigned portion of land on time. He didn't know that the day was one of those that quickly run out. I was on the farm very early in the morning, and I was working from the time I got to the farm till later in the afternoon, when I decided to rest under an iroko tree. I chose to rest under this tree because, as the elders had said, and Iroko will never harbor evil, nor allow unfortunate events near its place. And that was how I slept. From that afternoon till right in the late night, I was woken up by the sound of mosquitoes and other insects trying to have their piece of me, and was shocked to see that my short nap had turned into a deep slumber. I started packing my farm tools, and that was when I heard the noise. I thought it was just the farm pest, and I tried to get closer to see if I could make a kill. But what I saw was different. I saw two men holding a gun to a woman's head, and they shot her. I didn't know why I shouted, because that shout was the beginning of the slave trade in my life. These men saw me and ran after me. I tried as much as possible, but I couldn't escape them, and they caught up with me with their gun. I was bundled and heard one of them say, "He's going to be a fine apprentice for our master." I was blindfolded for what appeared to seem a full day. As we got to the settlement later the second day, and I could feel the air there was very different, very cool. But I was wondering where we could be. I felt myself being lifted and thrown. I was scared I would land on the hard ground, but instead, I heard the creaks of woods while my body hit a wooden floor, and beneath it was cold. Later that day, the blindfold was removed, and I could see I was on a huge boat. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, and a man came up to me and said, "If you behave well, this might not be the end of you." Everything changed from there on. The man, as it appeared to be, was the leader, and he was a very huge and heavily built man, looking like a god in human form. Everyone called him Father, and as time went on, I was allowed to roam the ship freely. He instructed that I be taken around, so I could see and know where I am. During these tours, I saw many slaves like me, men, women, boys and girls, all crammed up in cages made from bamboo trees. I know we had to earn my spots to make sure I didn't end up there again. After the tour, I was taken to Father, as they call him, and told him I would do anything, just not to be packed together with those people in a cage. He smiled and told me, "Yes, I know you would. That is why you will be a perfect fit for this role." I didn't understand what he meant by that back then, but after that statement, I was thoroughly trained and stripped of my empathy and the little human feeling I had, and I became a stone-cold killing machine. One day, after waking up one morning, after many years of serving under him, he told me the time has come for me to take what is mine, and to take it, I will have to battle with him till death. If I win, he has to die. If I don't, then it is my death. I gave the fight everything I had, and by a stroke of luck and practice, I won him. That was how I became the new father and master slave trader you see here today. Ayomide was surprised, and she started feeling remorse for him as he continued and told her he was tired of this life and he wanted his actual freedom back, as he had been thinking of quitting the slave trading, but he needed a way to escape them unseen. After many rounds of visits, Babatunde requested that Ayomide be released from the prison and brought to his chamber, as she would start living with him. Ayomide and Babatunde started getting close and developing feelings for one another. At first, Babatunde's crew member thought it was just something of a fling, but then as time went on, they discovered that these two liked each other, but they started suspecting them. But since they were nothing strange, they didn't pay much attention to it. While these two were together, they plotted a way to escape from the slave traders and regain their freedom. One night after arriving at their destination, it rained heavily, and everyone had to be in their tent to hide away from the storm. But that was the night Babatunde and Ayomide struck. They knew the time was now or never, and they packed the things they prepared to carry when they were making their escape and took a run for it. It was raining heavily, with heavy claps of thunder, and nobody was outside. They were able to make it by running throughout the night for the next few days without stopping, until they got to the 5th village, which took them 3 whole days of running. They decided to settle down in this village, and they both got married there. After their marriage, Babatunde had a hard time settling for a profession, as he was only used to slave trading, and soon after about 3 years, Ayomide started nagging him that he was a lazy man who didn't want to work to provide for them. This came as a shocker to Babatunde, as he has never seen this side of her before. But unknown to Babatunde, Ayomide has already met another man who was richer than he was. But nobody knew what he did for a living. They all knew he was a very wealthy man, without any means of making such money, and Ayomide didn't care. So she left Babatunde and became depressed for a long time, but later went ahead to become a blacksmith. A few months later, Babatunde became the best blacksmith ever known in the village, and Ayomide went with the wealthy man. During this time, it was announced to the king that some people were missing in the village, and there was a man who had come to entice girls with gifts and taking them away with nobody knowing where they went. A few days after this announcement, a man came to report to the king that he saw some men with some sheep along the coast of the village, with some women in bondage. This news traveled faster than it reached Babatunde. Before the end of the day, he thought about it and wondered if perhaps Ayomide would be among these women, and he still loved her, so he had to do something, even if he didn't want to be with her anymore. The king was still preparing his men to take action, but Babatunde knew if he didn't go on time, they might not have a chance to save the ladies that were kidnapped. He now dares to face these kidnappers and put an end to all this slave trade once and for all. So he sprang into action and took some of the best made tools and soldier up to rescue them. When he got close to the slave trader's stands, it was almost done, and they were almost done packing. He quickly started having them one by one with an axe he came along with. Babatunde had fought against many people and other slave traders, so their fighting style was not new to him. Within a twinkle of an eye, he had brought down more than 2 slave traders already. Before the morning sun, he had put down many of them and rescued all the women. But the leader of these men was on the ship already, and Babatunde couldn't get to him on time, so he escaped. He was able to take Ayomide back and took them back to the village. The king was very pleased with him, but Babatunde informed them that there was still their leader who was able to escape, and he advised the king to create a special force because of the man that was able to escape, so they would be prepared in case anything would happen. The king, being a wise king, listened to this advice and created a division of soldiers to help abolish and fight against the slave trade and the slave traders, to which he appointed Babatunde as their commander. Ayomide tries to reconcile with Babatunde, but he tells her he can no longer be with her again because he has someone else already. A few months later, Babatunde got married to his new wife, and the king celebrated them, as Babatunde by then has already become an accomplished blacksmith who was known in the other neighboring villages.